Well, hey guys, listen, I'm going to talk to you today about flick putting and why I think it might be a great tool for you to add to your bag. Now, I'm not saying you have to make it your main putting style like me, but what I am saying is I think it can really help you shave off some strokes if you will implement it into your gameplay at certain times. So you want to find out where that can be? Join me just on the other side of the intro. Okay, so here's the deal, guys. I really think flick putting can come into play when you have either terrain issues or obstacles. And that's where they're really going to shine. I know that for most of y'all, you're going to do your regular putting most of the time, but there are times when it gets uncomfortable. And this is where I think you need to find that thing that is going to help you be the most comfortable every time you throw. So for instance, if I'm setting up with a regular staggered putt, this is nice and comfortable. And where's my most comfortable zone to putt? It's right here, just bam. Now sometimes there may be something in front of us or below us. So if there's something here, I may have to putt lower. I can get down and putt like this. It starts to get less comfortable because of that. This feels awkward, my weight transfer isn't as comfortable, but I'm still able to do this. If I need to get any lower, I could kind of do this, but that's kind of a fling and a prayer. Same thing from up high. If there's something in my way that I have to go over, and especially if it's right near me, I can't just float over. I've got to try to do something like this. I'm lifting my weight up, and that's not as comfortable. I'm having to adjust how my whole body reacts when I'm putting. Okay, same thing with the straddle putt. Now with the straddle putt, I can actually get a little lower. You know, I can squat down and really get low and almost drag the ground with the disc. And that's still pretty comfortable because I'm still releasing at this angle. So I've got about a range from about here, as far as being comfortable, to about there. That's my most comfortable area. Now I can still go a little bit higher, but as you're getting out of that real comfort zone, it's getting less comfortable. But you still got this expansion of this range that you can putt fairly comfortably. But the one thing that happens is it's all in this line right here. Especially a stagger putt, you've got this very narrow window of comfort. You need to be able to throw right here. Rock your body and move in this linear motion right here. I'm very tied in with this range of motion. Stagger, I've still got the same thing, but I'm allowed to move. You know, I've got this much range and this much range. If my mark is right here, I've got more latitude. So for a stagger putt, it's still the same range, but I've got about a distance from here to here that I can comfortably putt because of my ability to move. Okay, so let me show you. Let's pretend this light stand is a tree or a pole or anything between you or the basket, okay? So let's say my mark is right here, right behind, in between the pole and the basket. I've got to do this. If I've got a staggered putt, I'm going to have to either flip around here, that's not comfortable, or I'm going to have to do something like this to get around. So what does everybody do? Stagger putt. So now I've got a clear shot to the basket. Well, that's fine if the pole is only this big, but what if the tree is this big? Now I'm here, and so instead of the tree being from here to here, it's still blocking between me and the basket. I'm still going to have to get out here. So as soon as any objects get beyond about this big, your straddle putt starts to get a little more cramped. That's where the flick putt can really come into play. Because here's the thing, if my mark is directly behind this pole right here, well, I just put my left foot here and I go out here, I've got all range in the world. I can even go off camera almost out here. The tree would have to be basically this big, or it could be a bush or whatever. I've got this much latitude to get around with the flick putt. It's got a lot longer, bigger comfort zone. I'm going to show you from this side here. We're going to get rid of the tree for a second. Let's say my mark is here, all right? And you're the basket. Well, I can normally, this is my normal zone right here. This is my most comfortable throw right here. But I can also throw up a little higher, but I can also throw out here. If I really need to, I can throw out here. I really only need my wrist to do most of the work, so I can pop some stuff from right out here. So I've got about a, 6-foot reach to get out here. Now granted, I'm kind of tall, but this helps to get around stuff. It's very helpful. I've made so many putts around a tree or a bush just by going like this and just popping it like that. I can also get down on my knees, same thing down here. You notice with the flick putt, it's all upper body. So no matter what happens to my lower body, I'm still comfortable. I'm doing the same putt right here. Whereas if I am having to get on my knee, ooh, I should have stayed down, oh, that hurt. Doing it on the knee, I'm still having to change some of my body mechanics to throw a straddle or a staggered putt here. The great thing about flick putting is that as long as I've got my body semi-stationary and room for my arm to maneuver, I can throw fairly comfortably. And this brings me to part 2. Imagine you're on a hilly terrain. I'm gonna get this. Let's say for some reason your disc lands in a ditch or something. And it's a real slopey disc like this. So my mark is here, but I've got to be back behind it. So now this is like I'm on a ditch. I've got to try to figure out how to comfortably putt like this. That's hard. So maybe I can hop over here and do a little more staggered. That feels a little bit better. My knee's not in the way. That's more comfortable. But what if I just stood like this? Look, my body is not having to change its mechanics. It's not having to do extra weight shift. As a matter of fact, I can stand on one foot almost if I had good balance. And it's still the same thing. Boy, that's terrible. Let's switch over to this one. I'm better right foot balanced than left. But see, I don't need the rest of my body to throw the same throw. And that is so important when the hills or the trees get in the way. You've got all this extra stuff you don't have to think about. So anyway, that's what I want to encourage you with, is start thinking about how you can get away with a lot of stuff that normally messes you up when you're putting if the terrain or objects get in your way. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I start breathing too heavy. I mean, I only did 2 things and I'm sorry guys. Okay, I'll show you more of that out on the field, but I want to get in your head that the flick putt gives you so much more latitude. I really have a space, if we were to map it out, from about here down to here, because I could get on my knees and still be comfortable from this area here, but then you extend that out all the way over to here and up to here. So in essence, if I drew a box of comfortability in throwing, it would be about a 6-foot by 3-foot box that I could throw anywhere in that box and be pretty comfortable. That's handy when the disc gets behind a bush or a tree or whatever. Whereas for staggered putt, you've got about the same 3-foot range. You can get down to maybe 4, but you've only got about a foot in width that you can be comfortable with. And with the stagger, you got about a 2.5, maybe 3-foot width. So you're automatically doubling your comfort zone just by throwing a forehand. All right, so now, Pete, what do you do? So if you ever were like me in high school, we used to pop each other like this. So it's that right there, where you're trying to do a little whip and pop somebody with these 2 fingers. Same thing in ultimate, when you're throwing an ultimate frisbee. And I just do a little bit of split finger, and I may even sometimes just bring it in, but most of the time I'm doing a little split finger like that. You see it right there? And then I don't throw straight a flat shot at it. I actually throw a little bit of an anhyzer. And that's going to curve it in, which is another bonus. I'm actually not going straight at the basket. I'm curving around to the basket, which adds an extra layer of getting around objects. So I'm going to throw it and let the stability of the disc bring it from that curve and flatten it out so that it hits the chains. Usually going fairly flat. It may even stay on hyzer some. But I'm simply, if you're the basket, I'm just looking at you and I'm just popping it out here, letting it come around, crash right into the basket. For some reason, this comes back to my ultimate days. It's almost like I'm going around a defender. It's the same thing. That's where it kind of hit with me. The tree's the defender. I want to get around it. I just do a little pop around, let it float back around, right into the basket. That's really all it is to it. That's what I'm thinking. So it really comes down to getting out there and practicing. And here's what I'd say. You may use a flick putt twice around. So the other time, most of the other time, you're using your regular putt. So what is that, maybe 15, 20%, not even that much. Maybe practice that amount when you're out doing field work or whatever. Do your regular putt, get those down 80, 85% of the time, but every so often get out there and just start working on your flick putt. Just start getting that down, and you're gonna find yourself out on the field needing that shot, and you're gonna feel much more comfortable to just step out, boom. Plus it'll impress your friends and they'll start hating you for making those putts, but it's actually pretty cool. So anyway, that's the beginning of it. Let's go out in the field and take a look at some of the things we do and how I practice these shots. I've got 5 new discs I haven't even putted with before. So I'm just gonna set up. Oh, you stinker. All right, to show it's not about the disc. That was 5 brand new proxies. Good old birdies. This is what I started putting with. Oh. How about some Penroses? I haven't really used these either. Now I just literally got off my motorcycle, set this up. These are the first putts. I'm not doing any trickery or whatever. Now I've switched from the birdies to the bergs, so these, I should feel more comfortable with these. I shouldn't shoot right next to a road, but anyway. All right, so I should feel good with these. It's not about the disc. It's about learning whatever disc you have, learning how to throw them and being comfortable and being able to sit there and just repeat that throw over and over again. Okay, so we have normal putting. I'm more comfortable doing a staggered putt, so I would be here. Oh, get the arm through it. No problem. Now granted, I'm not that far away. But then what happens when you introduce an obstacle? What happens here? My disc lands right here behind the tree. I've got to keep my foot here. I can't do this. I could lean out and do a pitch putt. So here's my shot. So now I can step out here and the tree's narrow enough that I'm now clear. So now I can, okay, that works. But here's the problem. If that tree gets any bigger, I'm in trouble. Let's say this tree is twice its width, or it's a wall or a bush, and suddenly I'm here. As soon as I have to move over another 2 feet, this tree becomes a real issue. I can kind of do a straddle, but I'm really pushing this tree to make that shot. However, if I then now just switch over from putting down here to doing this, I'm as comfortable as can be. This tree, actually, from here, I could get all the way out to here and still be fairly comfortable throwing it. That's why it's so helpful to have that in your tool bag. Also, if the ground's slick and wet, you have to make sure, especially for stagger, that you've got a good footing so you don't do any slipping or anything like this. This, as I've showed before, I could do 1 foot. As long as I've got a decent stance, there's no motion down here. It's all up here. And I'm nice and calm down here, so I don't have to worry about my feet slipping so much. It's just boom, 1 arm. So the other thing that we can think about besides getting around objects is the stance, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I also wanted to add the third element is distance, because you've only got so much range with this and so much range with this where you eventually start having to jump putt. But throwing a forehand, I'm able to go farther out and still maintain that comfort of throwing this. And as it gets even farther out, I can actually club up and still be throwing a forehand comfortably with a mid-range or more and still have that same flight pattern. Okay, this is 45 feet. And let's face it, from a standstill, staggered, or straddle, this is probably my decent range. Now, you know, you got some people like Calvin and stuff who can throw a lot farther, but comfortably, and even that, I've got to rock forward. And see, even here, I'm okay, but it's a kind of wing and a prayer because I'm really having to concentrate on giving it a lot of power. I'm not comfortable because I'm having to think about really popping it versus placing it. Okay, so then you say, yeah, but Pete, then I can jump putt. Granted, you can. So now, definitely feels better. But I'm relying on changing my whole body mechanics. And what if there's something in front? What if there's something obstructing me? I have to rely on the terrain and my body motion to get that distance. However, I can stand still with a forehand and just throw it in comfortably like this. And the good news is I can keep going back. Something about here, I'm not changing my form at all. I'm just giving it a little more distance. Oh, I really wanted that one to go in because that would have been awesome 3 in a row. It never happens. But see, I haven't changed anything from that throw to that throw to that throw. I'm adding a little more power, but it's the same throw. It's the same form every time. I can keep going back. There's a comfort to that. There's a consistency that you can do to that, that you are throwing the same throw no matter if you're 10 feet away or 60 feet away. And I think there's got to be something good in that. Let me know in the comments what you think, but that's one of the reasons why I love it. Okay, the whole reason why I got started with this is because of really probably Ultimate, and I just got used to throwing around defenders, but throwing this Anheuser shot. Now these branches are going to be a little interesting. But watch, I'm gonna go back even further. This is a heck of a junk putt range, but for me, it doesn't feel too bad. Ooh, I thought I hit that one. Did you notice I'm not giving it a lot of, I'm not jumping, I'm not doing anything. I'm just here consistently throwing. Okay, so your disc lands here. You're only 25 feet out, but how comfortable are you trying to make this putt? You've got tree right in the middle, tree right here, tree right here, and it's a little curvy ground. This is where, if you're a staggered putter, if you can see this, I'm gonna have to throw a hyzer right through here. Gave it a shot. If I'm a staggered putter, a straddle putter, I could try to do this. That tree is right there. So I could come out here and try to run it that way. Or maybe I've got a little bit better angle over here. Oh. But look how easy this is. I just come out here. Of course it fell. My comfort level ratcheted so much higher as soon as I can step out around here and avoid all this. Whereas with your normal putting, this creates a lot of tension because you either got to go here or around there, but you've got to throw a shot you normally don't throw. Where this is the same shot I throw all day long. I could even get all the way out here. I want you to be more comfortable and more productive when you're out on the course, and I think this could help. Here's another scenario for you. That's your disc, that's where it landed. So how comfortable are you gonna be if you're a, leaky. That feels weird. Remember, I've talked about this before. So you'd want to do a straddle putt, something like this. Of course, I made it when I was trying to prove a point. That still feels weird. The straddle is definitely better when the terrain gets weird, but what if my only option was to straddle this way, and now I've got this bush right here. So then, of course I made it because I wanted to prove a point, and I just messed it up. But being able to use the flick putt, I can straddle like this. This is still comfortable. And then I just blow it. Yep, like I said, the other two are easier. Don't do the flick putt. All right, let's try that again. I don't know if you can see, but there's a running creek right here, so I'm having to straddle it while keeping my foot maintained with the back here. So now, let's face it, it's a semi-long putt, but that is so much more comfortable than any other putt I could make with this kind of shot. So you're not going to use it all the time, but it's great to have that in your bag when you step up to something like this. All right, so even though I'm really stretched out, pretend there's a bush. I'm like in the bush, except for I can poke out like this, but I've still got my arm free. I'm still pretty comfortable, even though I'm in a bush or under a picnic table. Okay, here's another scenario. My disc lane's just on the edge of the bank. It's safe, but with my meter in, I'm right here, and I can't really straddle to the right. I could try to straddle to the left, but that's just bizarre. All I have is footing to go backwards. Well, I could try to straddle stagger putt, but my weight with the slope of this, every time I go to throw, it wants to send me into the creek. Because I don't need to rely on my base so much, I can go backwards, barely use my back foot if I need to. Fortunately, I got plenty of room. I'm nice and comfortable. And now, it's just a regular shot. It feels so much more secure and comfortable doing this than trying any other thing. This line represents my direction, where my disc would land to the basket. But I'm actually coming in at an angle. So I'm not throwing directly at the basket. I'm curving it through. Oh, there we go. Oh, stinker. That's a great illustration, even though I missed those two. The sweet spot, and I'll do it from your angle. The sweet spot on the cage for doing a forehand putt, because it's spinning this way when it comes in, right-handed flick putter. It's coming in like this. You want to hit in this area here. That's the sweet spot that you want to hit. What happens when you hit up here is a lot of times the spin will help slide it out to the right. It'll want to bounce off and pull off here. Whereas it'll catch over here a lot of times and the spin will drag it right in. You can get too low and get some funky stuff too. So you really want, this is your sweet spot in here. Okay, so let's talk power versus touch. Power shots, I'm blasting through. I may need to get through woods or something like that, so I'm gonna set up and I'm just gonna pow, pow. That comes in real handy, just to have that pinpoint. Problem is, if you miss, you blow by it a mile. Also, I tend to, if I'm tight or if I miss, I tend to pull over, and that kind of shot will then hit on edge and go a mile. So you've also got to have touch.
All right, so now instead of going through the hoop, I'm going to use the hoop as the obstacle to remind me to float this over. I'm throwing a shot basically like an approach shot. I'm throwing it up, nose up, and letting it float and drop into the basket versus blast into the basket. Oh, Pete, thank you. So you really do need to work on both types of throws because you need them both on the course. Sometimes you got to blast through it, but you really got to have good touch. When you get in weird areas, you can't let it roll too far. You can still run at it, but not blast by it. So there's power throws and there's touch throws. You need to learn both. Practice. While I also use the hoop a lot to work on getting that line that I want. You know, I'm bringing it in and floating it in. I also will like to just grab my disc and I call it work around the horn. So I'll set up. Oh, and I'll just start moving around. Give myself obstacles to throw around. There we go. Because most of the time you're going to be using this as a scramble shot. So practice scrambling. Get weird places up on the hill. There's no way I can make this. Yep, that's what I thought. Spend time in uncomfortable places so you can be comfortable later on playing there. Ooh, almost busted my butt. This tree right in the middle. Step out. Oh, Pete. Be uncomfortable in practice so you can be comfortable in real shot. Bring it. You start thinking about making it all of them, and that last one just